Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senior Vice President and General Counsel of the Associated Press, Kaiser.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It is such an honor for me to introduce the recipient of the Reporters Committee 2017 First Amendment Award, Kathleen Carroll. And I'll do my best. I'll do my best to introduce her without getting too choked up. This award is given to honor someone's career supporting the free press. And indeed, Kathleen has dedicated her entire career to pursuing hard-hitting, fact-based, objective journalism, standing up for press freedoms, and protecting journalist safety. Kathleen first joined AP in 1978 after working as a reporter in the Dallas Morning News. She was a writer and editor in various AP bureaus before advancing to AP's top news executive position. Previously, she'd worked for Knight Ridder, where she directed Washington and international coverage, and was also business editor at the International Herald Tribune and an editor at the San Jose Mercury News. But it is her role at AP as executive editor that I would like to highlight here tonight. Kathleen was AP's top news executive for 14 years. That's 14 years overseeing the most comprehensive news report in the world. And think about that. 2,000 stories, 4,000 images, 200 news videos every day, 365 days a year around the world in all formats. That's quite a task. And Kathleen led this news coverage in addition to AP's distinctive investigative journalism for 14 years. And she did so in a manner that we all respect, with vision, courage, tenacity, integrity, and humility, and with a constant eye towards the news mission and its critical role in our democracy. Kathleen was a major force in shaping the modern AP and expanding AP's news footprint by establishing bureaus in North Korea, Myanmar, and Saudi Arabia, thereby being able to better inform the world. And of course, it's worth noting that AP journalists have won countless awards during Kathleen's tenure, among them Pulitzer Prizes, Polk Awards, OPC Awards, and others. Kathleen is known to many in this room for her tireless advocacy for the safety of all journalists, an issue that sadly has hit close to home too many times over the years. And she has become a leader in this field, being the first journalist ever to address the United Nations Security Council on journalist safety. And we all now benefit from her guidance and leadership in this area. And I can tell you from experience that Kathleen is a staunch defender of press freedoms and the First Amendment. We have fought countless battles together, Kathleen and I, side by side, as partners at every step, from state-level access fights to taking on the Department of Justice. And I was privileged to be able to do that with Kathleen for nearly a decade. And let me tell you, Kathleen's dedication to these principles and her passion for the news mission is inspiring to watch. On a personal note, I can say that Kathleen is the person who has most inspired me to do what I can to help fight for these principles that we all hold dear. So there's no one that I can think of more deserving and more worthy of this award than Kathleen Carroll, and it gives me such immense pleasure to be able to present this award to Kathleen. So Kathleen, would you please come accept your award?
Karen always makes it hard to follow her. Thank you so much. You know, there's really nothing good about discovering that federal agents have been secretly rooting around in your phone records, as we learned in 2003 at the AP. It was pretty good to have a CEO who was a First Amendment lawyer, Gary Pruitt, and it was really, really good to have, as a lawyer, someone as smart and, if you know her, sweetly ferocious as Kaiser. It's that kind of potent partnership between journalists and lawyers that's the foundation of the Reporters Committee and the very important role that it plays in keeping the country safe for robust journalism. And it's why it's such an honor to be here in the company of my friends Paul Steiger and Marty Barron, the tireless lawyers of Davis Wright Tremaine, whom I have so long admired, And let's face it, we're all going to tear up a little bit when we honor Gwen, whom we all adored. I'm grateful to be joined tonight by my wonderful husband, Steve Toomey, and our son, Nick Toomey, and many of the fine people from the Associated Press, a news organization filled with journalists and a few lawyers who every day, in every corner of the globe, are fighting to bring information to the people. Their devotion to the mission of accountability and transparency is a constant source of inspiration. And frankly, we need some inspiration. We need good journalists, and we need good lawyers when we are fighting the real enemies of the people: hubris, righteousness, secrecy, and downright lies. Now, there's a lot of talk about... Yeah, come on, come on. You guys haven't had that much to drink yet. There's a lot of talk about the current administration's behavior toward the press, and others have noted, and certainly will again, let's not forget that the previous ones were no prize. While vowing to be the most transparent administration in history, the Obama team instead tried to frog march a record number of journalists and people who talk to journalists into federal prison cells. Now, the Trump lashings and insults and untruths are well known. What was a surprise to me is that the president's cabinet was filled with delicate flowers. A person who laughed too loudly at the Attorney General's confirmation hearing was arrested and convicted of being disruptive. God help us if being disruptive is going to get us in prison. As you know, a West Virginia State House reporter was arrested for asking questions of the HHS secretary, who sniffed that it was not an official press conference. And another reporter was manhandled for asking an FCC commissioner a question in a hallway. Heaven forfend. So what this tells us is that the Trump administration will sic the cops on anyone that they think is rude? Are you friggin' kidding me? The most encouraging thing about the current climate, though, is that news organizations are largely ignoring the nanny boo-boo stuff, instead doubling down on what we are born to do, and that is reporting. There are also nascent signs that we are learning to work together better, too, through organizations like the Reporters Committee and the Committee to Protect Journalists. We just have to put competitiveness aside when the fundamental rights that we enjoy are being threatened. Because if journalists can be arrested for asking a loud question in a public place, we had better be ready for much, much worse. And for that, we will need each other, and thank you, Mr. Bezos, that $1 million will help us too. It is a real thrill to be here with you, the rock stars of our shared mission. And I just can't wait to see what holy shit stories will break tomorrow. Thank you very much.